sickness and healing, a part of Allah's wisdom and mercy. It was another quiet afternoon, and as usual, Grandpa Mohammed's grandchildren gathered around him under the shade of the large palm tree in the garden. They were eager to hear the next story in his series of life lessons. Grandpa smiled at their anticipation and said, "Today, my dear ones, I'm going to talk to you about something we all experience in our lives: sickness and healing. These two things are very important in life, and both are part of Allah's wisdom and mercy." The grandchildren leaned in, listening closely, as Grandpa Muhammad began his story. Sickness, a test from Allah. Grandpa started by explaining, sickness is something that happens to all of us at some point. It could be something small, like a cold, or something more serious. But do you know why we get sick sometimes? It's a way Allah tests our patience and strength. Allah says in the Quran, وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ, which means, and when I am ill, it is He who cures me. This shows us that sickness is a part of life, but healing is always in Allah's hands. Grandpa paused for a moment and looked at the children. Sickness, he continued, reminds us to be grateful for the health we often take for granted. It also teaches us patience, which is one of the most important lessons we can learn. He gave an example. Imagine you fall and scrape your knee. At first it hurts, but over time the wound begins to heal. That's how life works. Sometimes we feel pain, but Allah always sends healing, whether for our bodies or our hearts. Healing, Allah's mercy, and using the right means. Grandpa then moved on to talk about healing. Just as Allah sends sickness to test us, He also sends healing as a sign of His mercy. But healing doesn't just come directly, it comes through the means and tools Allah has provided us. Among these means are doctors and the hospitals that countries provide for us. In the past, people relied on herbalists or village healers to provide treatments, but with the development of science, we now have specialized doctors for every type of illness. He continued, Allah has made science and knowledge available to us, allowing medicine to develop from simple herbs to advanced treatments and surgeries. Now, when we get sick, we go to the doctor, who is a person who has studied and learned how to treat illnesses. Allah made the doctor a means of healing, just like He says in the Quran about honey. يَخْرُجُ مِن بُطُونِهَا شَرَابٌ مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانُهُ فِيهِ شِفَاءٌ لِلنَّاسِ. Honey was one of the natural remedies Allah provided, and today, hospitals and doctors offer us advanced forms of treatment. Grandpa added, doctors don't just give us medicine, they use modern science like tests, x-rays, and analyses to understand what is happening inside our bodies, and all of this is thanks to Allah, who has given them the ability to learn and grow in knowledge. Sickness and healing in science. Grandpa Mohammed loved connecting Quranic wisdom with scientific discoveries. He said, in science, we know that our bodies are designed to heal themselves. For example, when you catch a cold, your body works hard to fight off the virus, and eventually, you get better. Scientists have discovered that our immune system protects us even when we don't realize it. Isn't that amazing? Grandpa smiled as he saw the curiosity on his grandchildren's faces. Allah's wisdom is in every part of our bodies, and His mercy is shown in the way we recover after sickness. So even when we feel ill, we must remember that healing is part of Allah's plan, and doctors and science are the tools He has given us. The lesson of patience and gratitude. As the story neared its end, Grandpa Muhammad gave one final piece of advice. When you or someone you love falls ill, remember that this is a test of patience, and healing is a reward for those who remain steadfast. Always be grateful for the health you have, and when you're sick, be patient and trust that Allah will bring healing through the means He has provided us. The grandchildren nodded, understanding the important lesson from their grandfather's words. They realized that sickness and healing are not just physical experiences, but opportunities to grow in faith, patience, and gratitude, and that doctors and hospitals are part of Allah's mercy and the scientific progress He has allowed. Conclusion. Grandpa Muhammad looked at his grandchildren and smiled, saying, that was today's story, my dear ones. Sickness and healing are both part of Allah's wisdom and mercy. When we understand this, we can face illness with strength and trust in Allah's plan, knowing that doctors are part of that plan. As the children thanked their grandfather, he added, "In the next story, we'll talk about another pair that Allah has created in balance. But for today, let's remember the lesson of patience and trust in Allah's healing."